It's time for the Movin the Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your hosts, Kevin Thomas, Jerel Hendricks, and John Epps.
Welcome into Movin the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Got the whole crew here today. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside John Epps and Jerel Hendricks. Boys, how you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Hey, I'm good. I'm ready to get this going on, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so you guys may or may not have noticed, but we had an inordinate amount of coaching changes this offseason here. So we are here to talk a little coaching carousel with you guys, breaking down the 5A through the 1A, even a couple season jobs here and there. But if this is you guys' first time tuning in, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Movin Chains, our website, movinchains.com, movinchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. We've been doing some great off-season interviews with some coaches. You guys want to check those out on all of our platforms there. We've got our weekly preview shows coming up again here and in a few months. But definitely, guys, like I mentioned, over 50 changes this offseason. A couple of jobs not even filled yet still. It's just been just a wild west, really, this spring and summer so far.
It always seems to go this way. You know, every year we know a couple big jobs that are going to open up or may open up. And then at some point the floodgates open and then everybody starts moving around. It's like watching ants.
Yeah, no, it's been crazy to see this off season. A lot of dominoes, obviously. You know, some bigger jobs coming open, especially in the 5 and 4A ranks. But it's been really exciting. We've had to push this back like 2 months to try to get these things full, and we still got vacancies. But excited to go through this list of coaches.
True. Let's do it, John. Start rattling off some names here, and we'll give some input as we go. We've got a couple of viewer questions. We'll make sure we hit on as we get to them as well. But John, let's start running through this bad boy here.
Yeah, we'll start at the top with 5A. First school we've got is Ashley Ridge. Jeff Tate will be the new coach at Ashley Ridge, taking over. He previously was the head coach at Wren, and he will take Shane Filler's spot. They had previously been there at Ashley Ridge. To me, I think this is a pretty good hire. Jeff Tate had some good success at Wren, as we all three know. Lost some pretty good athletes at Wren, but still showed a lot of progress with that program and some pretty good success as well.
This is one that really surprised me. I think it's a great hire, but, you know, with Coach Tate, been at Wren for 15 years, retired, did not see him getting back into the coaching force so quickly here. But, you know, obviously you mentioned he's had some great success there, won a state title there, won countless championships region-wise, things like that. You know, spent some time at Spartanburg and Burns as well. But this is Ashley Ridge program drill. We had a chance to talk to Coach Filler a few, weeks or month ago or so. That program was heading in the right direction already. Coach Tate's got a good foundation there to build off of.
Yeah, very solid foundation. Like you said, it's a great hire with Coach Tate. His experience, you got to think like his last few seasons at Wren probably didn't sit with him the best, and you wanted maybe to go coach. These guys are wired like that, like they try to retire and they can't, and probably just sat there for a couple of weeks with a new coach in the seat with Coach Freight there, and he was like, "Nah, I got to get back in it." Not a good place, not a bad place, to go. Go retire in Charleston, but I think that's a good hire there with Coach Tate.
Yeah, so we'll move on. Berkeley, a job that Jerry Brown has left the helm at. He will be replaced by Eric Lodge. Now, if you don't know that name, don't worry. He comes out of Florida, where he was the head coach at Seminole High School down in the Sunshine State. What do you guys know about new coach here in Eric Lodge?
I just know that Berkeley's making a splash. They're trying to get back in it and, trying to get the Stags program back to where it's been previously, going out of state to make a hire. I'm sure some of the in-state guys were probably circling that job as a potential go-to, but they make a big-time move. He's had a lot of success down there at Seminole High School, and excited to see what he can do. I think he's got a pretty high-powered offense that they'd had down there previously.
I love this hire. This is a Berkeley program that had kind of fallen on hard times. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, but they were 2-8. Like, they won a playoff game somehow. This is a far cry from the Bruce Ellington and those guys back in the day of the Stags. But Coach Lodge really, really had a lot of success in Florida. He went 32-5 his past 3 years, including winning the 2020 state title. This guy knows how to win football games, and Berkeley is a program that wants to do that. And we talk about it every year. In the 5A ranks, Lower State is looking for some contenders. Until last year, Dutch Fork was the program down there in Lower State who was winning that every year. They got bumped up last year, letting Fort Dorchester make a state title run there to play in that game. But outside of Fort D, maybe a Lexington or a River Bluff, whoever gets flipped down into that lower half out of their region for the playoffs, that 5A Lower State is wide open. I mean, you could say. I think Berkeley with Coach Lodge, maybe not this year, but within a couple of years, I think they're going to be competing for that Lower State bid to the title game.
Yeah, they've always had talent, and it's just it's exciting for them to get into it. Go ahead, John.
I'll say this is a great time to come into the Berkeley program. You look at the region that they are in. They got Cane Bay, Goose Creek, Stratford, and Wando. Goose Creek, always a very good program. But this region overall, even Goose Creek included, is a little bit down. This is a good time to come in to try to retool the program a little bit and build it back up. You're not in a region where you've got 2 or 3 schools in that region that are competing for a state title every year. It's very conducive to be able to build something, and hopefully that Berkeley administration gives them some time to do that. And I think they will, given the lengths that they've gone to go hire Coach Lodge.
Yeah, and one more thing I do want to say before we move on, Coach Brown there is a legend in the state. He's been all over. So definitely, if that's his last stop there at Berkeley, definitely want to say thanks to him for everything that he did for the football, programs here across the state of South Carolina. A true legend. So definitely want to wish him well if he is done with coaching for sure.
Be interesting to see what happens there in Berkeley in the next couple of years. Going toward the Midlands, Blythewood, a program that was in a little bit of, I guess you could say, gossip this past year. Jason Seidel leaves the program. James Martin, the defensive coordinator, steps into that head coaching role now. A Blythewood program that's been good really since their inception when Jeff Scott started that program down there years ago. A good record last year, 8-2 regular season record. What do you guys expect to see with Martin stepping into the helm there at Blythewood? Yeah,
that Blythewood program has been under some scrutiny lately for sure, with some different actions last year, and then Coach Seidel really, we'll just come out and say it, really an abrupt leaving there. Kind of some things behind the scenes went on. We don't really know all the details on that, but he was out all of a sudden there after winning the region last year. So a surprise there. Coach Martin, the DC there, has coached previously at Northwestern and South Mecklenburg. I believe he was the head coach at Northwestern for a while too. Not sure how that ended up. I think he ended up not being there very long, but it's hard to say when something like that happens where you've got a good program, something behind the scenes makes the coach leave. Is it smart to just promote from within? Is it better to get new blood overall? I don't know. But Coach Martin, a guy that's got a lot of experience, I think he'll do fine there for the Bengals, a team that does return a lot of talent too. So they should be somebody to watch out for in 5A.
Yeah, I think it's a situation, like you said, they've just kind of been mired in controversy the last few months. I think that's just the easy move to slide him over, already having experience, just a safe move. Doesn't really move the needle for me per se. It's just one of those things where kind of give him a year, see what he can do. It's a talented team. Can he produce? Maybe let him extend his time. And if it's a one and done situation, you get back in this coaching carousel next year, and we'll be talking about that job again. But I know one thing, I got that Ridgeview game circled for Blythewood next year.
I don't think you're the only one either.
This was actually a job that was asked about. Our buddy Steven asked us the question to make sure we highlighted that Blythewood one. So hopefully we gave you some good insight there, Steven. But I do think Blythewood in that region with this team that we're about to talk about here in a minute has a really good shot to finish 1 or 2 again next year. So they should be on the up and up, and interesting to see what Coach Mark could do there at the helm.
Yeah, certainly not a problem with the product on the field. Going into York County now, we've got Clover in the spotlight. Brian Lane departs the Eagles program. He's going to be replaced by Lexington's head coach, Perry Woolbright. To me, I think this is a little bit of an interesting move, Lexington to Clover. Obviously, a lot of variables, a lot of dynamics to go into making a coaching change for the individual themselves. What do you guys think about that move from Lexington to Clover here?
First of all, I love it. We had the chance to talk to Coach Woolbright a few weeks ago, and just a really interesting story. Son of a coach, just in his blood. I mean, he's just an outstanding football coach. He mentioned how it was difficult to leave that great situation at Lexington, where everything was good to him. He was also the athletic director there. Moving back home to Clover, I think that's the biggest thing. Getting home, being able to coach. His dad coached at Clover. I think this is an A+ home run type hire for Clover, because this is a guy, he's probably going to end his career there. Go check out that interview with him. Great story, showing his pedigree, all the stops that he had along the way. And, this is a situation where Brian Lane was there, and, he kind of built them back up. Clover, we were looking at the history of the program. It's kind of been a roller coaster the last 20 years. And, they were doing some good things there. And I'm really interested to see the Woolbright tenure at Clover.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring some really good stability there for those guys. 38-25 his last 6 years at Lexington. Also spent time at Batesburg-Leesville as a head coach, North Myrtle Beach as a head coach, was on staff at Gaffney for a while, coached at App State. Really smart guy. And I think, I listened back to our last year coaching carousel pod the other night, and one thing that we kept hitting on, and I think it's something that we're going to see a lot tonight as well, hiring someone who went to the school, an alum, always seems to, add some juice to it, and maybe he's not the best coach. I think he's a really good football coach, but just hiring somebody who went there seems to work out a lot for the community, because they understand what it means to be a football player there. I think Coach Woolbright's going to do a great job there at Clover. He had Lexington rolling, and really, for him, you get into a little bit of an easier region than having to deal with Dutch Fork and River Bluff every year. You get to deal with Clover now, a couple of those schools like Rock Hill and whatnot. I think he's going to do Blythewood. You got to do Blythewood, not Clover. He's at Clover. I think he's going to do a great job there. I'm excited to see Coach Woolbright there. And just like Jerel said, the added layer, he played there, played for his dad there. Now he's coaching his son there at Clover. So super cool for the Woolbright family there. And I think they're going to do a great job with the Blue Eagles.
And you even take that aspect away, you look at his resume, you can't get much better experience and a wide array of experience than what he's had too. I agree with you, Jerel. I think Clover could not have made a better hire than what they've made right here. So going into this is one of the big ones, right? Dorman High School. Dustin Curtis was just there. He departs that program after some short success. We felt like he was going to have that. He moves on, and now the Dorman assistant Jake Morris will step in. New role here. Wild how that works out. You're Dorman. You have a stable head coach for years upon years, and then boom, you run into a situation where you're hiring another head coach shortly after that. 3 coaches in a very short span of time here for those guys.
Not what you expected if you're Dorman after Coach Gutschall left, for sure. But Coach Curtis, you got to understand it going back home. Another situation, like we said, going back to where you went to school, got family there still, totally get it. Jake Morris, a guy that's waited his turn, been on staff for 9 years, coached, kind of everything there. I think it was a title. His title was associate head coach last year, something like that. Young guy, we had a chance to talk to him a few weeks ago as well. Really, really smart guy, bright guy there. I think he's going to do a good job. And, it's a situation for Dorman where if this works out, he's going to be there for 40 years. I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. So if this turns out to be a good hire, it's going to be there for a heck of a long time.
Yeah, I took it as a situation, and like you said, with Coach Morris, he is a Dorman guy through and through. So it's a situation where if he has success there, he's going to be there for a long time. When it first came out, you expected with Dorman, like they were going to go swing for the fences, try to get a big name, maybe even go out of state for, this is a premier job here in South Carolina, to get their guy, and then they promote from within was a little bit unexpected. But I kind of see where the AD's coming from, the logic there of, we just went and got Dustin Curtis, and he was only here for a year. And it's a situation where we don't want to do that again. So I think if it works out, it's going to be great. I wish Coach Morris the best. It was awesome catching up with him and getting his story. And, that Dorman job is a behemoth. So he's going to have to get it done relatively quickly.
But, he's been able to watch two guys that are very, very good.
Sure.
Do it the last few years too. So they seem to be in good hands. And you expect Dorman, their administration, they know what they're doing there.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's not going to be fun for a first-time head coach having to go on the road to the reservation and to Spartanburg and to Burns. But he played there in high school, played for state. I think he won a state title with those guys there. He's familiar with tough environments for sure. So it'll be fun to see how that works out, and I hope it works out well for Coach Morris.
Sure.
Going down to the Grand Strand for another pretty big job here. Talking about Conway. We've got Carlton Terry that was previously head coaching Conway. He's going to be replaced now by Josh Pierce, who was last head coach at Lamar. So hiring relatively locally there. Very successful program at Lamar that Pierce was at. What do you guys think about this? Pretty big jump from Lamar to Conway.
In my relatively short time of covering high school football in this state, Lamar has turned into just like a pipeline for coaches now to go get a bigger job. We saw that, last year with them being on the show. But I think this is going to be great. You learn a lot being at Lamar, somewhere that's got high expectations, and that's what he's going to experience here at Conway as well. Try to get these guys, back to playing some good football. And I like the hire of Coach Pierce there.
Yeah. I don't think you see a lot of 1A to 5A jumps for sure. But, this is a Conway program that has been looking for the guy for a while now. They had Chuck Jordan there for years. You go back to the George Goss days and the Bobby Wallace days and, Eric Huggins and Rasheed, all those guys they had that were, early 2000s or whatever. And even back before then, tons of studs there under Coach Jordan, who had been there for, 30 years or whatever. After that, have not had that same level of success. Coach Terry just hadn't had, maybe those really deep playoff runs like you'd like to see out of a Tigers program that's always got talent, it feels like. I think Josh Pierce is the kind of guy they're looking for. Mentioned coming from Lamar. Outside of that, he's coached at Dillon and Marlboro County. I mean, those are three pretty big-time, football programs, football towns, knows how to win. First year as a head coach, I think they went 7-3, but they also won a couple games in the playoffs, of course, before losing. I think it was to Estill, I think, remember correctly. So had a nice run there as what the 1A level. I'm sure there's definitely some changes going from 1A to 5A, but this is a guy who knows how to win, got a good background on the defensive side there. A Conway team that's got talent, just got to have the right guy leading them, and I think Coach Pierce is the man for the job.
That was Johnsonville, the Flashes that were
That's
having
right.
such a good year.
That's right.
Lamar had this past year. Yeah, so moving on, we've got Fort Dorchester, another huge job here. A lot of back and forth with this program in the offseason. Finally, Steve LaPrade steps down at Fort D. He is replaced by assistant from the staff, Josh Smith. Obviously, this is another program. The product on the field, nothing wrong there. They even battled some injuries this year, bounced back, had a good finish to the season, very strong program still. Expect Josh Smith to be able to continue that down at Fort D.
I honestly, I don't know what to think here, Jerel. This is it was, like I said, a back and forth situation. Coach LaPrade was the coach. He wasn't the coach. He was the coach again. Then he goes out, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've just given Josh Smith the interim tags. I don't even know if that's like a full-time job or not. A guy, like I said, has been on staff there, former Clemson football player, actually. I think this program is going to have some good success this year because they've got plenty of talent down there in the low country for sure. How deep they'll go, I don't know. They lost some big pieces like a Zoltan Osborne, but they've got some good running backs back. I know they've got some kids that can really play on that side of the football. Interesting to see, what happens there. And let me ask you guys too, what do you think Coach Smith has to do record-wise to get that interim tag taken away? Or is it more about maybe it's just, uniting the community? Or is it – what do you think it comes down to there for him to get that full-time gig?
That's a really good question. For me, I think it's a situation you got to produce. Like, I think the whole, the other aspects as far as community and academics and, the cohesiveness are a huge part of football here. But like when you've gotten to the standard of a Fort Dorchester where it's, state title contention each year or bust, I think he's got to maintain that at a minimum. I mean, he's got to go 3 rounds, lower state finals at least to retain this job. But I just don't know how he's going to do it because, quite frankly, in no disrespect to Coach Smith, this is a mess, man. This is an absolute mess. I don't know what's going on down there. I don't know what happened. I'm sure people are still wondering, especially with Coach LaPrade getting that job back. But I just wish the best for Coach Smith and this opportunity that he's getting. Don't know if he's going to be able to retain that head coaching position, but I hope he just makes the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with Jerel. If we're being honest with ourselves, all that extracurricular, all that's great to have and be great at, but it all comes down to winning. Can you win? And for Dorchester, boy, they are used to winning. Went back to the Weekend of Champions this past year, fell to Dutch Fork. I don't think he has to make it back to Columbia to retain that tag, but you can't lose first or second round. When you get knocked out of the playoffs, it better be by somebody that's having a great season, be it a Carolina Florida or Somerville, whoever. You can't let the program slip. If you lose, okay, but you can't lose an inferior program or inferior team. So stakes are high. Stakes are definitely high. And if we move on here to staying in 5A, though, let me find my place here. First game for me too, right? Now this job, Hillcrest. We go back to the upstate. This one has got. I'm really interested to see how all the pieces fall to place with here. Coach Anthony Freight has had tremendous success with Hillcrest. We'll talk about where he lands later. But the incoming coach for the Rams is going to be Bennett Swigert, a huge name in South Carolina football, that Swigert family. He previously was the offensive coordinator at SC State, and now he will come into Hillcrest. Excited to see what he does there at Hillcrest.
Yeah, this is another coach that we had the opportunity to speak with at length in Coach Swigert there. Going to Hillcrest, this is a program, over the last 10 years, they've had really good success, and Coach Freight had really good success while he was there, not just on the field, but off the field as well. Like you said, name recognition, the pedigree, him coaching in college for a long time is going to help, but it also, you want to see, like, how is it going to hurt him? That's going to be a different group, going from coaching those 18 to 23-year-olds to high school kids, completely different dynamics, completely different setup. And, I'll say it, the challenge of coaching in Greenville County, like, can we get one of these teams to actually be successful and sustain success? I think it's a great hire, based on his experience and, definitely in speaking with him. But remains to be, what's going to happen. Big losses on the offensive side, especially with Judy and Coldren there. We'll see if he can get it retooled. The offense is going to be good. That defense was great. Can they put it all together this year?
Yeah, great hire. You mentioned coming from SC State, also spent time at Newberry College, Fort Dorchester, played collegiately at South Carolina and Western. A guy that was in the running for a lot of jobs this offseason, from what I hear. Ends up with the Rams there, a program that has been really good. I mean, 2 years ago, I think they lost 3 games. Each game was by a couple points. Last year, lost 2 games, each game by a couple points. I mean, they've been right there, right on the cusp of making a pretty deep run the last few years. Like you mentioned, Jerel, losing some big pieces there. But they do have Avery McFadden back, do have Thomas Stanley back, some players who can get it done on that side of the ball. And Coach Swigert, I think, is going to bring an energy. Coach Freight was a little bit more defensively focused. Coach Schweigert's more of an offensive guy. We'll see how that works out there. I do want to circle back on something here and get you guys' thoughts on this, Jerel. You mentioned him going from college to high school, how much of a difference that is. I wonder in this day and age with what we're seeing in high school football, looking at the transfer portal and this and that. I mean, is it as different as it was maybe 5 years ago, or is it almost now where it's like, hey, like he's been a part of this, like he knows now that these kids love to see these videos, the hype videos, like, well, that was it's a big college thing 5 years ago. Now each high school has their own videographer. It seems like, I mean, they're doing this. You got people moving around. I mean, how much different is it now outside of obviously, the workload probably is a little more at the college level, but just the way the kids act and the things that they like, I don't know if it's that different anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. So that's a very valid point. I think as far as like the behaviors of the kids, it's going to be very similar. I think more so just making that adjustment of being a high school coach and like the time commitments and then getting in the schematics of, like, I know we talk about college football, we're all Clemson fans here, so it's all about graduating players and stuff like that. But really, these guys are focused on football nonstop, whereas high school, you got a lot more going on with the social lives and school and, navigating being a teenager. So I think that's where it's going to be different. Like the football focus may not be to the level that he's experienced at the college level.
Yeah, I'm going to go agree with you, Jerel, but I want to go kind of opposite. I think it's a big difference. I think, as far as the social media aspect goes and all that, that gap is certainly much tighter. But, you talk about college football and how much time that those athletes put into the program. You're talking about, these guys are probably getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning before class, going to workouts. You probably got kids, and we know kids in high school. We were kids in high school. You probably got kids that are skipping out on practice and missing meetings here and there for goofy things, right? You're dealing with 16, 17-year-olds that football might not be the top priority. And for Coach Swigert, he knows that. He's been at all levels, but actually dealing with that's, after you're at the college level, you got a whole group of guys that are fully committed, and then you go back to high school and, you got girlfriends and homework and all that other kind of stuff to deal with too.
Sure.
Let's go to the next one. We got another big school here. We go back to Lexington. We talked about Coach Perry Woolbright leaving the Lexington program. They get the big hire. They get Dustin Curtis from his short stay at Dorman. As you guys mentioned, Dustin Curtis coming home to the Lexington program. I think Woolbright was a great hire, a great move for Clover, but obviously Lexington's got to be super happy getting Dustin Curtis to come down to Lexington as well. Yeah,
getting another alum. I love that hire for them. Before Dorman, he won a state title at AC Florida, so no stranger to success. Of course, spent time at Westwood as a head coach as well as over and assisted at Spring Valley. So a guy who's been around the Midlands a lot, definitely understands the area. I think it's a great hire for those guys. I think he's going to be there for a long time. Similar to, like talk about Coach Woolbright, Coach Morris. Those guys are going to be there for quite a while. I see Coach Curtis having quite a long stay there for the Wildcats.
Yeah, slam dunk hire, getting Coach Curtis from Dorman. I mean, how many times do you hear like somebody pulling? Like never, you don't pull from those premier jobs. So good for him. I know he's got that family being from the Midlands, the pull there. A Lexington program that's had some good success. He's got to deal with that behemoth that we talked about in Dutch Fork being in the same region. And that was probably one of the most competitive 5A regions last year. All those teams played really, really well. But Coach Curtis, is probably not afraid of any sort of, competition. And I think he's going to do well. My main thing is trying to see how he adjusts the offense. He likes to run the football, smash it. And, they kind of aired it out a little bit. They did have Jonah Norris, but just the schematics of it, how that's going to match up with his system.
Because he's got a really good quarterback, Taden Mines, coming back, a guy who can sling it and run it. So interesting to see how they get him involved, like you said, Joe, more in the passing game than he had to do at Dorman or even back at AC Florida with guys like Markel Townsend there running the rock.
Yeah, for sure.
You make the joke, hey, people don't pull a head coach from Dorman. I mean, you got to go before Coach Gutshaw. it may not have ever happened.
Yeah.
That's not inconceivable. This might be a first ever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's a great coup there. Like you said, you got to see the motivation for both of these coaches leaving, their respective jobs, those gigs, to go back home. Like Kevin said, that's got to be a dream of a high school football coach to coach at your high school. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah, love that. Going back up toward the upstays, we bounce around. Coach Naismith leaves the Mavericks program. He's going to be replaced by Airport's head coach, Andre Cook. Interesting move, I think, on all fronts to me on this one. What do you guys think about this with Cook going to Malden?
Yeah, didn't really see that one coming. We talked to Coach Cook last year when we were doing our new coaches interviews series when he was at Airport. He was really excited about getting that opportunity there. He was he's originally from Ohio, and then kind of set up roots, went to North Carolina, and then, matriculated down to South Carolina. Thought he would be at Airport for a while. He had his son there last year, and the season really just didn't go the way that he planned out. But then moving to Malden, it's going to be a tough gig. I think that's a very difficult job. I really like Coach Cook. That's another great story, even though it's for last year. Go back and watch that interview so you can hear his story about playing at Youngstown State. Really cool stuff. But wish Coach Cook success. He's a really good football coach, and I think that's a good hire for Malden.
This is another program, similar to like Conway, like I said earlier, a program that has not been successful lately. But Malden keeps churning out talent. I mean, they've got guys like, Jay Lucas at Clemson and Deuce Caldwell up at North Carolina. I mean, guys before that that have gone on to play, collegiately at different schools around the country. They got a lot of talent, man. They just got to figure out a way to turn that into wins. Coach Cab did a great job there. Never made like a deep playoff run, I wouldn't say, but had some good success there. Took them to the playoffs a lot. Coach Naismith, was on that staff. Then took over, here at Malden before stepping down to go over to work on that Woodmont staff. I think Coach Cook is going to infuse some energy to the program. I think he's going to infuse some discipline to the program. I think this is a job, like I know we talk about it drill a lot. These Greenville County schools have a lot stacked against them. I mean, they really do. But I think this is one that somehow continues to turn out talent. I think they're the biggest school in Greenville County, I believe. This is one that I think has a chance to like do some really good things. Like, I don't know if they can ever win, a state title at the 5A level. That's going to be really tough for them. Yeah. But they can be finishing better than like fourth in their region. I mean, this is a team that's got the talent, maybe not this year, but the next couple of years, they could be, first, second in the region, hosting a playoff game. I have no doubt they could be doing that.
Sure.
The big thing is, hey, if you got the talent, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
We look at how all the talent that Hillcrest had right across town from Malden this past year. There's really no reason that Malden can't put together a group like that too. We're talking about kids that are neighborhoods apart.
Yep.
So I agree with you, Kev. I think the potential for Malden is very, very high. And hey, once you get into the playoffs, a lot of things can happen. So I'm excited to see what happens with Malden. Again, they got the talent to be very, very competitive and very good. We'll see if Coach Cook can be the one to really set a spark to it. And here's a long-time job, Spring Valley. Coach Robin Bacon, a guy that has been in Midlands football since I was in high school. He will depart the program at Spring Valley, getting replaced by Nigel Pearson, who will come from across the state line in North Carolina, where he was previously the head coach at North Rowan High School. Sad to see Coach Bacon leave. He's such a staple in the Midlands football community. But, Spring Valley is another program that hasn't quite met, maybe not expectations, but maybe fulfilled all their potential. And maybe that's short side by me of saying, but Spring Valley always has a lot of talent, and they are certainly a program that can be a big-time force, especially in the Midlands.
Coach Pearson, 20-12 his last 3 years at North Rowan there. Also spent time at South Carolina State, Catawba College, and Fairfield Central. Was an all-MEAC lineman at South Carolina State. A guy that is a South Carolina kid, grew up in Darlington, Has had some good success at the high school level, and I think he was the OC at SC State. He's had good success at the college level too. I think this is a really good hire for them. Coach Bacon is not an easy guy to replace, like you said, John. Really, a legend kind of in the coaching game here in the state, and that's why he got picked to get one of these other jobs we'll get to down here in a little bit. But Coach Pearson is a good hire for them. I like what he's brings to the table there. Jerel and I are hoping to talk to him here shortly. We'll see how that goes. But a program that, like you just said, John, doesn't need, I wouldn't say an overhaul, maybe just kind of give him a little oil change, and get him back on track there.
Yeah, it's tough to follow the man that, was the man, be the man that after the man. But I think Coach Pearson, I think that's a good hire looking at his pedigree, his experience, and his record the last few years. I think it'll be good for the Vikings to get some fresh blood, get something new. And I think it's going to be good for Coach Bacon as well. He's going to get a new start. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But I think it's a win-win for everybody involved.
And now we come to our last 5A job that we'll cover here in the carousel, the Woodmont job. Jeff Murdoch was the head coach there at Woodmont. He is going to be replaced by the offensive coordinator on that staff, Ty Sutherland. What do you guys think about this move here?
Yeah, in-house, this is a tough job, man. Woodmont being 5A, being in Greenville County, it's just got to be very hard. I'm excited for Coach Sutherland to get the opportunity. Not going to lie, it's probably just pretty hard to fill that position. Not to say that Coach Sutherland didn't earn this opportunity, but don't have much appeal. I know they started off pretty hot. I think they won their first 3 games and then didn't win after that. Just a product of how difficult it is to play 5A, football in that particular area of the state. But just, I think it's a solid, safe hire. And I think it's a situation where, Woodmont, so many kids there, they have the potential to be good. Hopefully they can put it together.
A program that had some good success under Jet Turner just a few years back, but has now had a couple down years in a row. I don't know much about Coach Sutherland. Honestly, don't I know. I think he coached at Pendleton and Crescent before this. One thing that I like that he's done is he has surrounded himself with some guys who do have some head coaching experience. Like he's got Paget Johnson from Walhalla on staff. Also, we mentioned earlier Sayer Naismith at Malden. He's coming over to be on staff there at Woodmont as well. So he's got some guys that he can kind of lean on in maybe some tight situations here and there, being the head coach. But a program that has some room to grow for sure, and hope Coach Sutherland can do a good job there.
Yeah, Jerel, like you mentioned, they got a ton of kids, and that might be the most appealing aspect of this job. All 3 of us live, kind of in that area. Kevin and I more closely. There is, you throw a rock and you can hit a new subdivision that's coming up
yeah.
in that area. So you're going to have a ton of kids coming to that area, a ton of kids that are going to be zoned for that high school, which can only help. If nothing else, you're breeding more competition within the program and competition. As I say, iron sharpens iron. So you got the right people in place on staff to help cultivate that. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Coach Sutherland there at Woodmont next few years.
Yeah, I do want to, say this before we get into 4A here, John. I think a lot of these schools did a really good job in 5A.
Yeah.
Some of these programs obviously didn't have to have a whole lot happen. You got programs like a Dorman or a Lexington, even a Fort D that is a perennial power, and they've been good as of last year. So not a whole lot to be doing there. But I think a lot of these guys made some good hires at that level for sure. Any of them that, you guys thought were like, hey, this is the one. I said it a lot. I was like, this is a great hire, great hire, great hire. Was there one that you're like, this is the one I think is a home run?
I tell you what, I think the easy answer is to say Coach Curtis at Lexington, just because of the success that we saw him have at AC Flora, a school that's wasn't really a football school before Curtis took over and really took that program to the next step. But the one that I'm really excited about is Coach Swigert at Hillcrest.
Yeah.
That one, I think that's a really good mixture of some great experience and great, the right fit at a program. It's just a perfect match. That's what that program needs, and that's, a great place for Coach Swigert to land. That's the one that I'm most excited about.
The one that stands out for me is Berkeley, and I don't want to piss off any of our great coaches in state, but that's exciting to see. You get this guy to come up from Florida who's had a ton of success, and we know Florida is one of the top producing states as far as football talent, and you get make a major coup like that and get him to come up to Berkeley, a sleeping giant. We crave it. We want the lower state in 5A to be as competitive as it is up here, and I think that's the one that I got circled to watch over the next couple of years.
Drew, I love that answer because like I had one more that I was gonna say, and I was like, but a sneaky one though is Berkeley. Because a lot of folks don't know a lot about Coach Lodge, and I mean, to be honest, we don't either. We've never seen him coach, but from what you can look at on his resume, what he's done in Florida, and what we know is going on in lower state 5A right now, that's a job that could flip the whole state on its head pretty quickly if he gets rolling there. But the one I'm going to go with, Coach Woolbright at Clover, a program that has been fairly good the last couple of years. Winning 6-7 games, whatever it is. I think him going back home there is a lot of things. I mean, a lot of stuff in his favor. Always, obviously, going back home there. The region's not the strongest in 5A for sure. Should definitely be hosting a playoff game every year. I would think the Blue Eagles should be. And then on top of that, he's a flat out good coach. I mean, he's been around a lot of good guys. Phil Strickland. Just coached for under his dad, Woolbright there. His dad at Clover, and then obviously
he was at App State.
The App State staff there. Yeah, the guy knows what he's doing. He's won at some pretty big places. I think Clover made a grand slam hire with Coach Woolbright there.
Yeah, for sure.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
All right, let's hop into 4A. First one on the tabs for us here is Aiken. Olajuwon Page leads the program, being replaced by Barnwell head coach Dwayne Garrick. We kick off 4A. I think this is another really, really good hire for this program.
Absolutely love this hire. Coach Garrick, 83-21 the past 8 seasons at Barnwell. His second stint there as the head coach. Also been a coach at Hillcrest, Williston Elko, Dorman, River Bluff, and SC State. A guy with a lot of pedigree, a guy that's been a lot of places, won a lot of football games. This is a great hire, in my opinion. Aiken has been a team that has been very bad the last several years. Got some talent there. The Staley kid is a big recruit at wide receiver right now for them. Well, I wonder what he's going to do offensively. Obviously with the Warhorses, he ran a little bit of everything the last several years. Very run heavy with Tyler Smith. Some guys back before that. I wonder what he's going to do with the Hornets there. But I freaking love this hire. I know Jerel hated to see his boy Olajuwon go, but loved the way that he left. If you want to say that, love to watch him leave, Jerel. But this is a great hire for Aiken. It really is.
Yeah, you got to put this in like the top 8, top 10 hires of all of South Carolina high school football with Coach Garrick, his experience. And, he's just a winner. Like, that's what you want as a football coach more than anything. Someone who wins. I would assume he's got a little bit of a mess to clean up there with the way Coach Page left or, was forced out, whatever happened there. I don't know. I wasn't involved. But I love that hire with Coach Garrett. And like you said, the talent. I mean, you start off with Braylon Staley, who's one of the top wide receivers in the country, much less his state. And they've got some other pieces as well. I think some other guys that are getting D1 looks. I don't have my notes pulled up on those guys right now. But this is a really, really attractive and great home run hire for Aiken there.
Yeah, Aiken team went 1-9 last year. Hires a guy who went 10-0 in the regular season, so you love to see that. A team had a nice playoff run too. Ran into the Andrew Jackson buzzsaw. Just a couple years back. Played for State. I think played Saluda down there in Columbia for that one. Had a lot of success there. And then a thing that I always look at too with these hires is what else is going on in that area. That region is not particularly strong. North Augusta is always going to be good. The Yellow Jackets have a pretty solid program there. South Aiken, Jerel's favorite squad, is going to have a good year, I think, with what they've got coming back there. But then you got Midland Valley, you got Airport, two programs that have been kind of middling the last couple of years. Aiken, I think they've got a chance with Coach Garrett to be a real contender here. I don't think it's a quick turnaround. I don't think it's a 1-year deal, maybe not a 2-year deal, but I think he can build something pretty good there with that Aiken program.
Certainly, great hire here. And hey, the great thing that Coach Garrett did at Barnwell was use the tools that you got. You got Smith, boy, use them. And he's got that chance at Aiken. So I think another great hire here. We move on to Airport. Talk about Coach Andre Cook departing the Airport program. He is trading spaces with Shane Fiddler, who we talked about being the head coach at Ashley Ridge. He'll go down the Airport now. Obviously, Coach Fiddler has some great success at Ashley Ridge. What do you guys think he can do here at Airport?
Broken record here, but yeah, we talked to Coach Fiddler earlier in the year. Really excited. Like, he's just one of those coaches that struck me. Like, he just gets it. Like, he gets everything involved with being a football coach.
Super sharp guy, I felt like.
Yeah,
really sharp.
I think this is an outstanding hire for Airport. I think it's another situation where they're going to it's going to take some time for him to get, his system in place, get his culture in place. But I think he can win big at Airport. I think it's Lexington 2, that district, they have all the resources in the world. I know he mentioned that to us. So as long as he can, keep the players there, keep them happy, and then just have that time to develop his culture, I think the sky's the limit for Airport.
Yeah.
No pun intended there.
Been at Ashley Ridge for 3 years. Also coached at Waccamaw, Colleton County, Eau Claire, and Great Military. Went to South Carolina there. Jerel, you mentioned him getting it. It was great to hear him talk about just some of the stuff he's done to get, the community and the families more involved. They've got, I think he said that Mom's Day where they let them come out and do a practice and try on the stuff, and talking about getting involved with the middle school and the elementary school. He gets it for sure. Really good offensive mind, it seems like there. Going to be fun to see. That same region with that Aiken team we just talked about. A lot of playoff noise to be made out of there for sure. And they've got some talent. It seems like. I know they've been a program that has been fallen victim to some transfers the last couple of years for sure. So we'll see what's in house right now. See if he can keep those guys in house. But I like Coach Fiddler. I think he's going to do a good job there for the Eagles.
And it could be what he does off the field, like those things you were talking about that he did at Ashley Ridge that can, entice more kids, entice more fans to say, hey, this is where we want to be. There's a lot of schools in that Columbia area. There's a lot of options for kids. So you got to differentiate yourself a little bit in today's world. And he certainly could be the guy to do that for them. Here, this is a fun one here, I think. We're talking about Berea High School. Coach Julius Prince leads the program, being replaced by the athletic director, Drew Tislam. I have an opinion on how that comes about. What do you guys think about this move? Man,
it's a program that I don't know what you do. It's a tough job. No need to sugarcoat it. That's a tough job there for Berea. Not really a football school. Coach Chisholm, a Gaffney guy, has been around some winning programs, no doubt about that. And on top of it being, a not really a football school, they're in a tough region too. They have a tough time with those guys they have to play every year. But Coach Chisholm, he's always been super great to us. He's always helped us out whenever we needed something. So definitely want to wish him well. But a tough gig there as the head coach of the Bulldogs.
Yeah, that's really difficult right now for Berea. Won't pile on to him because that is my rival high school. But I think that's a difficult situation. I think it's a situation where Coach Chisholm there kind of just had to step in and be a bridge gap until they can figure something out. But Berea, they haven't been good recently, but they did have some success, I want to say, like in the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, where they had some really, really good athletes come through there. I think they may be a victim of the changing demographics of Greenville County, how it's shifted so much to where, it's tough to win in the county as it is, but it's really tough to win in football, and they just don't have the buy-in with that community there because of how things have changed. But I wish Coach Chisholm the best of luck, and I hope they can do a little bit better. Maybe next year their waiver will get, to where they can bump down to that 3A level and be able to be more competitive on that side.
Yeah, that seemed to be a pretty unfair move to keep Maria where they were at. I think all three of us were in agreement on that move, and I think when you come down to it, I think the rest of the people involved with high school football would agree with that too. But it doesn't happen, and you got to work with what you got. So we'll see what happens with that program. But, hey, the silver lining, though, Coach Chisholm, is, you got a chance. If you have some success, awesome. The bar is not set super high. So, you've got some room to work with. You got some, I guess, patience you can exercise there too.
And he's his own boss, so I'm sure that works out too.
Yeah, exactly. Always a good situation to have. Going down to the lower state, Colleton County replacing Chris Howe with the Whale Branch offensive coordinator, Adam Kinlock. Whale Branch, a program that had a lot of success last year, really the last few years. Pretty interesting move. Again, we can see a smaller school, coordinator, smaller school, going to a relatively big school here with 4A Colleton County. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like the hire. Like you said, you try to bring somebody in that's had some success somewhere else and do some things there and try to galvanize that community in that high school. I think it's a good hire for Colleton County. That's a tough gig, being down there and being in 4A when you're surrounded by other schools that aren't as big. But I like the hire with Coach Kinlock, and hopefully he can get that turned around.
I like it too. Like you mentioned, Whale Branch's success the last couple of years. He's been a big part of that for sure on the offensive side. Colleton County, a team that has not had some of that success. I think kind of him being a little bit more of a younger guy, infusing some youth and life to that program, should be a good coach. I mean, he's coached. He's a son of coaches, so I think he kind of grew up around it. I like what he's going to bring to that program. I think he's got a good chance to turn them around and turn them into a kind of a sneaky team here in a year or two.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's and when we talked about moving on to the next coach here, May River, Rodney Summers, previously the head coach at May River. I'm getting all kind of crossed up here. Sorry, guys. They are hiring within house Richard Bonneville, who was previously the offensive coordinator. Personally, I think this is a good move. This is a May River program that we don't typically talk a ton about. But this past year, they had some good success, made the playoffs, nearly knocked off a red-hot Myrtle Beach team in that first round. I think a good move by May River staying in-house here.
Yeah, I loved our conversation with Coach Bonneville. Another one, he just gets it, but more importantly, the best thing about Coach Bonneville that I took away was his self-awareness. Like, he knows who he is. He knows what kind of coach he is. He knows what he wants to do. Giving credit to others was something that he loved to do, especially with Coach Summers there, building that program. And, another one that's like the family tradition of coaching. He's going to have a son on the team, son of a coach, just a really cool story to hear from him. And I like that, you have someone who's been a part of that culture for a while, giving him an opportunity to coach. He's got that experience, maybe not the head coaching experience, but he's been around the block a time or two. And I really think it's going to resonate with the players. And I think he's going to do well at May River.
It was really neat to hear him talk about in that interview how, he's an older first-time head coach, but he was really, like you said, Jerel, kind of self-aware. He's like, if I was a younger guy, I wouldn't have been ready for this job. So he really kind of got it where he's like, I've learned a lot, and I think now is the time. So he definitely knew what he's getting into, understands what he needs to be doing there. And he's a guy that's been in a lot of places and has won a lot of football games. Coached at Westwood, Richmond Northeast, played for a state title there, coached at Camden, won a state title there with those guys. A guy that has been around some really good football. This Maver program, another team that's been really good the last couple of years. I think he'll continue that. And we could see them in that 4A kind of area there, I think, take a big step forward in the next couple of years and really be a contender for lower state 4A.
And that's a region that, there's a lot of opportunity there. That region, they are joined by Bluffton, Colleton County, Hilton Head, James Island, and Lucy Beckham.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nobody within that region you expect to just step out and dominate above everyone else. So there's definitely
I don't know. Coach McCoy at James Island might have something to say about that. And
that
Coach
defense
Smith,
was nasty.
I will say
maybe Coach Smith at Lucy Beckham, he might have something to say too.
I was gonna say that that region is gonna be, I think, really dang good in the next couple of years. I mean, with what Coach McCoy's doing there at James Island, what Coach Smith's doing, Lucy Beckham, last year in their first year had those guys, winning 7-8 ball games, whatever it was, like going to the playoffs, doing a really good job there. And then now Coach Bonneville at May River, that's 3 programs that I think are really trending in the right direction. Not only mention Bluffton, who had super good talent last year, I think made the playoffs as well. That region, I think, is going to get really tough. It's on the rise for sure in that part of the state.
Certainly competitive for sure. Now with North Augusta, they will be replacing Coach Matt Quinn, and Richard Bush steps into the head coaching job, who is an assistant or previously was an assistant on the North Augusta staff. A 5-5 team last year, maybe took a little bit of a step back, but still a really good program here.
Coach Bush, homegrown guy, alum of North Augusta, loved that part of it. Been around the program, coached on staff there, has had coaching experience at Williston Elko. Jerel and I are hoping to talk to him here in a week or so. So I definitely love that hire. A program, and I'll let you go ahead, Jerel, and I'll give some more thoughts. But you get your thoughts on there, Jerel.
Mine are just sad, man. Like I know this is kind of a shocker. Like we talked to Coach Quinn last year. He came on the show, and he was one of my favorite coaches we had the opportunity to sit down with. Just his energy, younger guy, young family. Came from he's been around a lot of really good football coaches, had a lot of experience in a short amount of time, coming through those Burns programs where, he probably lost like 2 high school football games in his career. And just was really excited to see what Coach Quinn was going to do there. You move forward, things change, and he's no longer the coach. And then, you kind of shuffle Coach Bush in there. It's more of a situation where, is it an interim or not? Is he going to be a stopgap? Is it someone long-term? Don't really know. So I know you're more plugged in at North Augusta, Kevin, but more so than anything, and I'm not trying to, put down the hire or anything about Coach Bush. I wish him, all the best there, but I'm more so sad that Coach Quinn is not coaching there anymore.
Yeah, I hope we see Coach Quinn back on the sideline here sooner rather than later, I'm hoping. But, Coach Bush is a guy, like we mentioned, with all these homegrown guys like that. I think if it works out, he's going to be there for a long time. He's a guy who grew up in the program, knows how it goes. But, there's a lot of stuff, going on behind the scenes there. It seems like, obviously we don't know all the details. It'll probably never come out. But this is their, 4th head coach in the past 6 years. And what's crazy about that, guys, like, some of these schools that we'll read through here, like you're like, okay, this program's been bad. They're always changing hands, whatever. This is a North Augusta program that is as storied as almost anybody in 4A. They've won state titles, a lot of state titles. They've always been a good football program, and it's a location where it's one of those that I love to talk about. One of those football towns. It's got one big high school in the town. That's what everybody cares about. It's just crazy to see them have to go through this the last several years. Hopefully they can get it figured out, and Coach Bush is the answer that they're looking for. But just wild to see. And I did want to mention this too. This is one we talked about it earlier with that Aiken hire and with the airport hire. That's 3 new coaches in that region this year. Only 2 holdovers are going to be South Aiken and then Midland Valley. That's not something that you see that often. It feels like, and this North Augusta program won the region last year. Just wild to see. Like you said, Jerel, I hope Coach Quinn is back on the sideline sooner rather than later. But definitely wish Coach Bush all the success in the world. Hope to talk to him and get to know him a little bit better here in a week or two. But definitely that was a shock to me when it came across the timelines here a few weeks back.
Yeah, definitely a program hope to see some stability with here in the near future. Bouncing back to the upstate, Pickens will have a new head coach. Chad Smith leaves the Blue Flame program. He's being replaced by River Bluff assistant James Reynolds. I don't know a ton about Coach Reynolds, but what I've seen from the River Bluff program, I'm very impressed with. This is a program that had Certainly has improved a lot over the last few years, still a relatively new program. So interested to see what kind of new blood Coach Reynolds can bring in Pickens, and a group that's got a tough region. Certainly a tough road ahead for him.
Yeah, same, John. I don't know too much about Coach Reynolds. I do know about Pickens, and that's a tough gig too. Kind of secluded up here, just they've had talent, I feel like, but that's another thing where like it's a situation where they have difficulties putting things together. Don't know what's going to happen, but I do like the hire with him coming from River Bluff. Really impressed with River Bluff over the last couple of years and what they've been able to get done. So I got to echo those sentiments.
Yeah, a guy who spent time at River Bluff, Irmo, Ben Lippen, and Westwood. So a lot of Midlands metro area there experience. So first time in the upstate for Coach Reynolds. I should see how that goes for him. My Pickens program that I think could, another region that's got potential for somebody to kind of step up. I think those guys could do it. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if he's got the talent there or not. We'll see. But wish him the best there at Pickens, a program that, honestly, John and Jerel, I feel like we don't talk about them a lot. And honestly, you may think that, hey, they win 1 or 2 games a year. They're not that bad. I mean, I think last year they won 4 or 5. I mean, they're not just an awful program. They've had some decent seasons here and there. So maybe that's something that Coach Reynolds can build off of and really turn them into a playoff team year in, year out.
Yeah, you talk about that being right around that 500 mark. You're 1 to 2 wins away from being a solid program, or at least in my book, going from middle of the road, you don't really get talked about, to being, hey, we got to circle these guys when we play them. And gosh, we went to that River Bluff Dorman game earlier this year, and we got there early and got to see that River Bluff team warm up. Yeah, that's a group that is well organized, and they played a clean football game. They got beat by the better team that night. But from a coaching perspective, if Coach Reynolds can bring that kind of organization and that kind of just cleanliness, the way that those kids went about their way in that pregame and during the whole game too, that was very impressive. Seems like a really good hire for Pickens. I hope it goes great for the Blue Flame and Coach Reynolds. We'll stay in the upstate here. This is our last 4A job, and this is one that I think is really interesting too, that we could probably talk about for much longer than we maybe should. But Coach Scott Early leaves the Rams program. He gets replaced by Coach Brian Lane, who is at Clover. This is a Westside program that was really fun to watch. Some young talent on that team as well, like the young quarterback for Westside. This is a big-time opportunity, I think, for Coach Lane. That Westside team really can be a really good team. They were really good this past year, winning 8 games in the regular season. I think this is a good hire here.
Yeah, Coach Lane at Clover for 6 years, went 32-26. Also coached as a head coach at Burns, Woodruff, and South Florence. So a lot of really big-time experience there for Coach Lane. A West Side program that's had some pretty good success under Coach Scott Early there. Like you mentioned, John, some really good talent coming back. Cutter Woods at quarterback, the Boston kid, and another receiver as well are back. So they'll have some firepower on offense, which Coach Lane obviously knows all about, how to coach that stuff up. So I think it's a good hire for those guys. They went and got a big name, a big splash for sure. Obviously, they've got to compete with Greenville in that region, which is tough, and then Greenwood always a powerhouse as well. But I like what Westside did here getting Coach Lane.
Yeah, great hire, I think, with Coach Lane. Like you said, kind of stabilize that Clover program. And then he goes to Westside, and I think he's, got some really good talent. Like you said, Cutter Woods is one of the best quarterbacks in the state. I mean, he's a D1 prospect, behind the center. And so I think it's a situation where he gets him for 2 years, where Coach Lane, in Westside can really make some noise over the next years. And I think it's a good opportunity for him, and I think it's a good hire for Westside.
Coach Lane, 125-63 overall as a head coach, multiple region coach of the year titles, won 4 state titles as an OC at Burns, I believe it was there, all there for the Rebels. So a lot of success. I like this hire a lot. It's going to be fun to watch what he can do there with the Rams and Cutter Woods and those guys.
Another thing, too, is he got in there early. I want to say he was one of the first coaches hired in January or December.
Yeah.
And so him being able to go, get acclimated with the program, get acclimated with, that community and his players, and, go through a full spring ball, because, we're just now doing this show. A lot of these coaches, they don't even probably know some of their players' names, and he's been there since January. So I think that's a good situation for him.
Yeah, I was just looking back at my notes, and we were invited to go to the press conference for Coach Lane January 8th. Yeah. So it's been quite a while there. Definitely want to shout out the AD there, Jeremy West, for inviting us to that and always taking care of us. Had a great spaghetti dinner while I was there. It's really great. You guys missed out, but good times there at Westside with Coach Lane. But like I did earlier with Berkeley, I do want to say, Scott Early retires, another, big time name in the coaching game, been around a long time, won a lot of football games. Definitely want to wish him well. I think he's taking a job with the, I can't remember if it's the Coaches Association. I think, is that right, guys? I think he's getting so. So I'm sure he'll still be around the game some, but definitely a really good high school football coach and been so for several years. But I think we've got to ask the 4A question again, guys. Like, which hire is your favorite out of these here in this 4A classification?
I'll give you two. I'll go short term and long term. I think short term, Coach Lane at Westside. Okay. I think with the talent that they have, and everything starts with a quarterback. I know offensive line coaches and people are probably going to comment on that, but whatever. Starts with the quarterback. And they got one of the best. So I think I remember you calling the O-line the lifeblood of the program in an interview last week, Jerel, if I remember correctly. It is the lifeblood, it is the lifeblood, but if you don't have a quarterback, it don't matter. And so they got one of the best in the state. So short term, I like Westside and Coach Lane there. Long term, I love Coach Fiddler. I just liked his juice, his energy, his ideas, his culture, and I think that he can really. It seemed like he was in it for the long term. I must be hungry. Long term for Airport, and I like that hire a lot.
I like that. And I tell you what, my favorite one, the one that I think's got a lot of promise, is Coach James Reynolds going from River Bluff to Pickens. Kevin, as you said, that Pickens program, they're not that bad. They're really not. And, they're a game or two away from being a really solid program. And Coach Reynolds, I like programs like Pickens hiring from, and nothing against anybody in the Pickens program or anybody against Upstate, but sometimes it takes somebody from a different setting, somebody from the Midlands, somebody from big time 5A football to come in and just bring some fresh ideas, a fresh look. Sometimes that's all it takes to improve a little bit. I'm really interested to see how that one pans out.
Yeah, I could have gone several different ways on these guys. I mean, I love the Coach Lane hire, the Coach Fiddler hire, the Coach Reynolds hire. But I got to go with my guy down at Aiken, Dwayne Garrett, because I think there's so much room for growth. Like, looking at some of these other programs, looking at, like what Coach Bonneville's taken over at May River or Coach Bush at North Augusta. Those are programs that have been pretty good. Like, I love the hires, don't get me wrong, for either one of those, but those programs have been solid. This Aiken program has been bad. And I think he's got a lot of room to grow with that program. I think he's going to do a really good job there. I love Coach Garrett going over to Aiken. I think that's a really good hire there for that Hornet squad.
That's my number 2 pick.
Yeah, I like that.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
And yeah, if you guys, this is y'all's first time tuning in, check us out as always, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Movin Chains, movinchains.com, our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Moving the Chains brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Great people over there, along with the Georgia Agency, Kona, all of our friends at Hand Engineering. Appreciate all those guys for making this possible. But, John, let's take a look at some of these 3A schools and what they had going on in the coaching search this year.
Yeah, we'll start down the low country with Battery Creek. Clemson alum Terrence Ash will not be the head coach moving forward, but I understand he will still be the athletic director for Battery Creek. And the new head coach there will be, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, Ed Susie from Buford High School. Had a great year down in Buford this past year. So pretty exciting for him to get this job, a little bit of a step up from Buford to Battery Creek. What do you guys think about this one here?
Great hire. Coach Susie obviously been at Buford 2 years. Also spent time at Fort Mill and Boiling Springs. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the Battery Creek program as Jerel is, and I'm sure he'll go into that. But this seems like a very tough job. Beaufort, obviously not, I wouldn't say a powerhouse either. But interesting to have him go from Beaufort, where he kind of had it rolling, down there to the Dolphins.
Yeah, Battery Creek is a situation where you're constantly rolling kids in and out because of the military bases down there. That just makes it really, really hard, for them to keep talent, know what you got from year to year. And it's a situation where I don't think they've ever prioritized football, just to be honest. It's not like, crosstown rival Beaufort with a T. But that BC job is tough. And, I think it's a good situation for TA, kind of stepping back a little bit and then bringing in, Coach Susi there. He's had great success, especially last year. Get that experience and try to get the Dolphins righted.
We go to Darlington now, where Raymond Jennings steps down as the head coach of Darlington. He's being replaced by Jamie Johnson, who was previously the head coach at Hannah Pamplico, so staying within the PD region. Hey, we all know this is just a tough job. This Darlington job, there's no way around it. The way that area works out. Kevin, I think you were mentioning it earlier, or last year, where, and I don't know if this is true. Maybe some of our viewers, listeners can tell us. But in Darlington County, I'm under understanding you can pick where you want to go to high school. So it's just tough for Darlington, if that is indeed the case. Just tough for Darlington to keep some talent at that program, at that school.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think it's one of those like school choice situations where you can pick where you go to school. But getting into the hire, I don't think they could have done any better with Coach Johnson, coming from HP. We've talked to Coach Johnson a couple times doing some off-season stuff and just really impressed with him. He's got all the experience. He's a former athletic director, so he knows the inner workings of, everything involved from that administrative standpoint. He's just a really, really good football coach. You've said that previously about others, but Coach Johnson, he gets it too. Really plugged in. I think it's a situation where he wants to be there. I think he mentioned when he was talking to us that he has family in the area through his wife. So he's trying to set up roots at Darlington. It's going to be tough. It's just going to be, I won't even say like a build job, not even a rebuild, like just trying to get his culture in place there.
I love the hire. And on top of the school of choice, which I believe is the situation, also a pretty big private school there with Trinity Collegiate, also taking a couple kids, I'm sure, out of that Darlington area. But Coach Johnson, 36-34 over the last 7 years at Hannah Pamplico. Also coached at Columbia, Richmond Northeast, Strong Thurman, and West Florence. Did a great job there at HP, a program that needed some new blood, turned them around, made them a contender every year. Same thing here at Darlington. They need some new blood. They've got athletes. They really do. He talked to us about some guys who are getting some collegiate looks, so he can really play there. Coach Johnson's going to do a good job. I think, he told Jerel and I that he's like, when somebody tells me I can't do something, like I kind of want to do it. He's like, I'm not scared of this job. So love to see that a Darlington program that is in a tough region there with Camden and, and Crestwood and Lakewood and those guys. But I think it's going to be a slow build for them. Like I see them having a decent season, winning a couple games here, which is, a lot more they've been doing the last few years. But I think it's going to take him a couple years to really turn them into what he wants them to be. But I love that hire for Coach Johnson there for the Falcons.
You got to have that attitude going somewhere like Darlington. That's great to have. Now, here's a program that had really good success last year, Hanahan, where Coach Art Craig leads the program, being replaced by a Georgia Southern assistant, Mylan Turner, maybe. Seems to be a really good hire. I don't know much about Coach Turner, but seems to be pretty good. And he's taken over a Hanahan team that was pretty doggone good last year.
This similar to that Berkeley hire could be one of the best ones in the state. Coach Turner was the director of high school relations at Georgia Southern before he took this job. Prior to that, he spent time at 7 programs in Georgia, going 112-43 as a head coach. He knows how to win. His coach in big-time football. This could be, maybe the hire of 3A. We'll get to that later on in our picks here, but that's a big one there. And it's a Hanahan program that had a really good year last year. Obviously, they had the situation with Coach Craig there, got kind of suspended there, whatever you want to call it, mid-year, not able to come back. They've got some talent coming back this year. They should be good again. The Hawks should be. I think Coach Turner may take them to that next level, make them a real serious contender here as soon as this year.
Yeah, the first thing is the resume just, jumps out on the page with his experience. So you got to love that from Coach Turner, just knows how to win football games. And then, having that college experience as well is going to do nothing but help Hanahan. Love the fact that we're talking about low country schools, making these strides to be really, really competitive. And like you said, this is a good team. They continued to play well after they had, the situation mid-season. So these are some kids that have battled through some adversity, and I think they're going to be better for it. And I'm excited about this hire as well.
Yeah, I think everything's looking up for the Hanahan program. Again, this is another situation where we talk about, hey, the product on the field is there. That tool, those weapons are in place. And here, this is another job, too, where I think similar situation can be said where the tools are in place. The Lakewood Gators. Coach Larry Cornelius is no longer the head coach there. He is being replaced by great collegiate assistant Willie Alford. Now, guy, am I right on this? Willie Alford.
That's who you're thinking about, yeah.
That is the Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
Former NFLer, former college guy. Yeah, that's him. That's him. All right.
We were like 36 or 38 in college.
Maybe. I trust you. I trust you, John. I trust you.
Number. We'll have to ask him.
Well, yeah, no, this is a great hire. This is recent, so I haven't really had much time to do much research on this one with him leaving that Gray program. But him coming from there and his, experience as a player, I'm sure, being under Coach Holmes, he knows how to run a program. And so he'll be able to get those things done at Lakewood. It's just a fantastic hire for that program. And, I think Coach Alford has a son that's got a pretty good profile as well as a player. So we'll see what happens there, see if he's going to follow Dad down to Lakewood.
Yeah, no doubt. What's number 20? A little bit off. Not bad.
Number 20 at Carolina.
Not bad. So prior to Gray, spent time at Oceanside, Columbia, Orangeburg Prep, and Newberry College, and was a head coach at a couple different schools in Florida as well. I know he took one to a state title game at one point, so he had some good success there. Love this hire for those guys. This is a guy, like you said, who knows how to do it, has had some success. He was, I think, at North Marion was one of the Florida schools he was at there. Did a really good job with that program. And Coach Alford's going to bring some life, some youth to that program there, the Lakewood team that needs some of that. So I think he's going to do a good job. Interesting to see, like Jerel said, does his son follow him over there? Does he stay at Gray for his senior year? We'll see. But really good hire there by Lakewood.
And Lakewood's got some talent. They can play. They can play. You look at their record and you go, they were 5-5 last year. Boy, they were competitive. They're a very good team. They're another one. They're very close to being very good. Let's take a step back. I almost forgot about this one. Can't forget about Georgetown. Coach Jimmy Noonan, no longer the head coach there. He is being replaced by former Woodruff head coach Bradley Adams. A Georgetown program, not very good last year. Coach Adams had some decent success at Woodruff. Was 5-5 last year. What do you guys think about this one here?
I like this hire as well. With Coach Adams coming down there, things obviously didn't work out for him at Woodruff for him to make this change. But I think it's good. It's another one. It's a difficult job at Georgetown, being nestled down there on the coast, trying to get, kids playing football. And there's a lot that goes into what happens on Friday nights. But he's a coach that's seen things, at a high level coming from a prestigious program in Woodruff.
And this is his second stint at Georgetown as the head coach. Went 40-27 from 2010 to 2015 down there, and then went to Woodruff last 5 years, went 33-22. A guy who's won a lot. It's always interesting to see these programs where you get a guy who kind of goes back to where he's, where he went before. It's a weird situation there, but a program that can go nowhere but up for sure. So I think Coach Adams knows what he's doing. He's a guy that is well thought of in the coaching profession for sure for what he can do on the offensive side of the ball. good hire there for the Bulldogs. Looking forward to see what Coach Adams can do down there.
Heading to North Charleston now, where Coach Devin Smalls is previous head coach there. He gets replaced by Curtis Walker, who was previously the head coach at Catawba College up in North Carolina. And here's another low country school making a pretty big move.
Talk about some big-time experience. Not only head coach at Catawba, was a DC at Coastal at one point. Coach Walker has been around the block, knows how to coach football. I know he fell in some hard times there at Catawba the last year or two. But this North Charleston program, a team that I feel like we never talk about, guys. When I was putting together this list, I didn't even know what classification they were. I had to look it up. I had no clue.
Yeah.
So a program, another one, has got nowhere to go but up. They've hired a guy who I think has the potential to do some really good things there. I don't know what the ceiling is for that program. I don't know enough about the school really necessarily to say that. But I think Coach Walker, for North Charleston program, that's a heck of a hire. That's like the level. If I just read off to you guys, hey, this guy's a head coach previously at Catawba, a college, a DC at Coastal. You'd be thinking that guy would be up for a premier 5A job. And North Charleston got him. That's a good hire for them. So see what can happen. But I don't know a ton about North Charleston, honestly.
Yeah, like you both are saying, that's kind of the flavor of this show. These schools in the Low Country making these big moves and making these great hires. Again, I didn't know North Charleston was in 3A either. I'm not going to lie to you.
So that's being honest, Jerel.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I don't know if we mentioned them last year on the show other than reading off scores. So hopefully he can get it figured out. Get them going. It's another area of the state that's growing immensely. So you would have to assume that they're getting new people in that area. His experience on paper alone, shows you that he has all the tools to be successful, and I hope that he is.
Yeah, and that might be something that's we talk about Berea with the zoning, with how Berea High School works out with that. And you talk about North Charleston. North Charleston, the area, is one of the biggest areas in the state. So yeah. I don't know if a lot of the athletes in that area are zoned. Most of those kids go to Somerville or where they're
Stall
going.
Or
yeah,
whoever.
Well, maybe not Stall, but there's a lot of people in that area, but not to be a 3A school. That's a small school. So I don't know. Interesting to see there, but certainly a cool hire for North Charleston. Again, a situation where it seems like the administration is saying, hey, we're going to put football as a priority. We're going to take this serious. So hopefully that works out well for them. Back into the upstate, Palmetto High School, Doug Shaw, former head coach, getting replaced by Powdersville offensive coordinator Ryan Norton. Now, we know all about that Powdersville offense last few years. They are a very, very high-powered group. Pretty cool hire, I think, here for Palmetto. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, on name recognition alone, he's got that, played at a high level being a Clemson offensive lineman, and then being successful. He's got the experience to back it up now being the offensive coordinator at Powdersville, who had, a historic run for that program, going to the state final. Going to Palmetto, it's difficult. That's a lot of these jobs that are on this list. These are difficult jobs. And, some of these young coaches, they're taking these opportunities because, it's just that, an opportunity for them to be a head coach young in their career, get that experience and, hope to build something and, make a lasting impression on these young men who play on these teams. So I think that's a good hire. I think it's a good opportunity for Coach Norton and, wish him success.
Yeah, I've been with the Patriots as the OC the last 3 years, been with them 6 years overall, also coached at Burns for a little bit there. I think you're exactly right, Joe. This is a job that, no offense to Palmetto, but I think if Coach Norton is good, it's going to be a stepping stone job for him. I don't think it's a long time deal there for him, but I think Palmetto needs something, it need kind of some young blood there. Coach, a funny kind of situation here. So Coach Doug Shaw, who was at Palmetto, Coach Norton at high school at Malden. So kind of a funny dynamic there where you're replacing your high school coach as the head coach where he got, let go from. Funny situation there. But I think Coach Norton's going to do a good job. A Palmetto program that I think John and Jerel, you may always remember this. I feel like a couple of years ago they had a pretty good year. Like they had some talent. I think they made maybe won a game between the playoffs. So they've had some success relatively recently. Coach Shaw is a really good coach. Obviously, that name carries a lot of weight in the state. Shaw does, no doubt about that. But I think it's a good hire from the Mustangs getting Coach Norton over there.
Yeah, I think this program's got potential, and I think this is another one that's a good fit. This is a good starting head coaching job for Coach Norton, and I think he's a guy that's fully prepared to take on this role. Staying in the upstate, Walhalla, Coach Patrick Johnson, no longer going to be the head coach there. He gets replaced by Malden offensive coordinator Chris Stone. This is a situation where I don't know exactly what to make of this from either end. What do you guys think here?
It's an odd one. Walhalla had been solid the last couple of years. Had some really good some good players there. The quarterback Bryce, cannot think of his last name, but he was a really good player there. Bryce Payne, one of our players of the week at one point, had a really good season there. With Coach Johnson, stepping down, going to work over now at Woodmont on that Sutherland staff we've all talked about earlier. It was just an odd situation in general because Coach Padgett, I believe, was not getting paid to work that Walhalla job, if I remember correctly.
Correct. He was volunteering.
Yeah, so kind of a weird situation in general. But Coach Stone, Jerel and I had the privilege of talking to him. A young guy, a smart guy, played football at Clemson and Furman. Coming over from Malden. I think he coached at Easley before that. I believe, Jerel, if you remember correctly.
Yeah.
A guy that's got the potential to really build something there with Walhalla. He seemed to really, embrace the community. He's looking at, where to move, things like that, places to eat. Like he wanted to get in the weeds with it. And I think that's the kind of guy it's going to take to really turn around a program and to kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah, I love talking to Coach Stone. I liked his energy too. That was a big thing for him, and just very enthusiastic about leading this program and getting the opportunity at Walhalla, another community that's nestled up here in Oconee County. But they've had some success, like you guys said. Like they've played some really good football. I think he even mentioned like Bryce Payne sticking around and joining his coaching staff there, because that's how people feel about the team and that community. So excited to see him. Got a young family. He's, like you said, he's got coaching experience and playing at the collegiate level. I think he's going to do well there, and really excited to see how he progresses and how Walhalla does over the course of the season.
Yeah, I think it's a good situation to step in. We go over to Woodruff now. Bradley Adams, as we talked about, he heads over to Georgetown, and he gets replaced by Brett Sloan, who last year was the offensive coordinator down in Georgia at Collins Hill High School. And Kevin, remind me if I'm right here. I think Collins Hill was the high school that we talked a lot about early in the season last year as one of these schools that some of the South Carolina teams stepped over to play. They had a ton of talent on that team. Is it Collins Hill that?
Yeah, I want to say a couple schools down in the Low Country may have played them last year. That sounds right. I have to look at my notes, but that sounds like something that we did talk about, I believe.
Yeah, going to Coach Sloan, I know he spent a lot of time. I think he's a South Carolina guy, so coming back home to Spartanburg, I want to say he went to Burns, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin.
Yeah, was an assistant there too.
So yeah, he's a Burns guy, so he knows ball. And then just taking that experience and going over to Georgia, he coached at some pretty high profile places, and I want to say actually Collins Hill is in the Atlanta Gwinnett area, which is closer this way, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say that's where the kid from Jackson State, Colorado, the receiver is throwing the Deion Sanders kid. I think. Travis Hunter. I think that's where Travis Hunter went to school. Yeah. It's a really, really big school, one of the highest levels in Georgia. So this is a huge step for Woodruff, making a big splash hire to try to get, them back to where they were previously. And I'm excited to see what Coach Sloan does. And I know he's excited. They got a young family, to come back to the upstate.
Yeah, looking at our schedule. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say we are pretty spot on that. Collins Hill High School out of Gwinnett County. Enrollment in 21 was 3,100 kids. So definitely big time school, big time program.
Yeah, looks like they didn't play anybody last year from Silicon. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I didn't have a chance to look and see. But
I want to say one of the coaches from Collins Hill went to Bluffton last year as Bluffton's head coach.
Maybe that was it.
I think that was the connection that you guys are thinking about. I want to say the offensive line coach is now at Bluffton.
I think you're right. But Coach Sloan, prior to being the OC at Collins Hill, was the head coach at Kell High School. Went 35-21 over 5 years there. So he's got some head coaching experience. I mean, and honestly, I think we were talking about it in our group chat a good bit this offseason, guys. This job was one of the more sought after in the state. We heard, I don't want to name drop anybody, but guys from all levels, including some very big programs, throw the name in the hat for this one. And they end up choosing Coach Sloan. So they saw something they liked, for no doubt about that. So a program that's had a ton of success in the past, some really good history there for the Wolverines, looking to kind of get it back on the right track and kind of take what Coach Adams did to the next level. Excited to see what Coach Sloan can do. Looking forward to hopefully talking to him here soon as well if we can get that worked out. But a smart offensive mind, I think, is going to be a potential. Woodruff is a job, I think, guys. And y'all may not feel this way, but I kind of think that if you're good at it, you're going to be there a long time. Like it's kind of a last stop job, honestly. If you're doing well. So this could be a hire that could be the last one for Coach Sloan.
It certainly could be. And I admittedly, until we started talking about it, earlier in the off season, I didn't realize the history behind Woodruff High School and the football program. And then once we started to peel back the layers a little bit, I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is a big time job. This is a big time program. And you have some success there. It's gonna be hard to leave.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, him coming, he cut his teeth in Georgia. We're talking about Kell, Collins Hill. These are some premier Georgia programs. These aren't like, some lower level teams and, just we're getting a guy from out of state. I'm sure there was it took a lot for him to leave Georgia to come back to South Carolina and coach. So kudos to Woodruff and, that administration for getting him to come home and coach there.
Yeah, and that's not it's not an easy region. I think they're in there with Clinton and Chapman. Actually, no, I think Chapman. I think Clinton is out of that region now. I believe is it Chapman and them and Broome? John, do you have it in front of you? Who
that is? It's a tough region. They've got the Chester Cyclones, Clinton as well.
Okay,
Emerald in that region, and Union too.
Okay, so Chapman's the one that went out. Okay, yeah. So Clinton and Chester. And Union obviously is kind of a sleeping giant. We feel like almost down there with those guys. It's a tough region for sure. And we talked about it in a few other spots here earlier in the show. Another area that is really growing, that Woodruff area is. I know they're 3A now. Would surprise me to see that program bumped up to a 4, maybe even a 5A here in the next 4 or 6 years, depending on what keeps happening. But a growing population there in the area.
And we've seen those growing areas, how those teams can do. Powdersville, one of those teams. That was a big-time area where 5 years ago you asked somebody, hey, where's Powdersville? And people in Greenville probably wouldn't know.
Yeah,
sure. People in the football world in South Carolina, where Powdersville is now.
Yep.
And that will we got one more 3A job, staying in the upstate. Wren, we talked about Jeff Tate leaving the Wren job, or we talked about the new Wren head coach, Anthony Freight, coming over from Hillcrest. He replaces Coach Jeff Tate. This is another move where great hire, a really, really good hire, I think, and a Wren program that's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Freight is as impressive as they come. I mean, that is a big coup for Wren, to replace Jeff Tate, who is a great football coach, with Anthony Freight and Tate. Try not to rhyme those two. But I think this is a great opportunity for him. Like, that community, athletically is just bought in every single sport, especially football. They've had some really good success, state championships, even, you're getting a push from your rival in Powdersville now with them being so good. But I think this is huge for him to come over and think about like what Wren had to do to get him to leave Hillcrest. I know Hillcrest lost some players, but that is they were kind of rolling there. They've played really good. They lose 2 games by a total of like 4 points last year.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean that's huge for Coach Freight to make that move over to Wren and replace Jeff Tate, who goes to Ashley Ridge.
26-12 in 4 years as the head coach of the Rams. Pretty solid there. Also coached at Emerald, Lawrence, a couple colleges. Mount Union, Patton High School in North Carolina Wesleyan. Some guys like that. A guy that knows how to win, been a lot of places, been around a lot of really cool football minds. Jerel, I talked to him, and that interview has not come out yet. It may by the time this comes out. We'll see how that goes. But, he was in a room. He saw him talking to us about being around with Nick Sirianni, Philadelphia Eagles head coach. He was on the staff with him. He was on the staff with Matt Campbell, who's now the head coach at Iowa State. I mean, he's been in the weeds, won national titles at Mount Union, an All-American linebacker. I mean, the guy gets it. The guy knows what winning football looks like. This is a great hire for them. A Wren program that, won state in 2019, so they're not far off from having some really big success. I think he's going to do a great job there. And it's something that I think it's an area. Obviously, Powdersville's growth has probably hurt the Wren talent a little bit because, they're so close together. But they've got plenty of talent there. They're going to continue to get plenty of talent there. Love this hire for Wren. Coach Freight has been great to us. I think that's a really good hire there for the Hurricanes.
Good move on all parts, I believe, here.
Yeah.
Or a move that's going to fit everybody here.
All right, so I got to ask you guys, did it for 4A and 5A. 3A, not as many hires looking back at maybe 4 and 5A were, but still a solid number there. What's one that you guys love and think? Who do you think made the best hire here in 3A?
Man, looking over this list, that's probably the hardest one so far because you might not have the quantity, but you have quality at all of these jobs. Like I don't see a single one where I'm like, maybe that guy might not work out. Like these are all fantastic hires. If I had to pick one though, I'd probably go Brett Sloan because he's coming from Georgia, been a head coach before, a younger guy, offensive guy, and then he's going to, like John was saying, a historic program. When you start peeling back the layers of Woodruff, like how good they were previously, I mean, if he can get that thing rolling, like you said, it's one of those jobs he could be there forever. He may get an offer where he leaves, but I think that is a really, really good hire for a sleeping giant, so to speak.
And that's another one, too, where it's a football town. Like I didn't mention that earlier, but I mean, that's what they do. They live, breathe, and die Woodruff football there. So that's a great community to coach in and a great hire for those guys. But who do you have, John?
They move on from, Bradley Adams there. And what was he, 33 and 21?
It was good. It was good. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he wasn't doing well, so.
Yeah. No doubt. Who do you like, John, as your 3A hire?
My favorite one, the one that I think could really be explosive, is Willie Alford at Lakewood.
Mm-hmm.
This is a program that I think is really, really good. You got Willie Alford coming from a great program that is run incredibly well. They do nothing but win over there, and they look very good doing it too. They're a very clean program. In fact, the way they play, the way that they prepare, and I like that Willie's got that. He's got that college, that NFL experience.
Yeah.
He can really get these kids fired up and really get these kids going. And I could see you got Renth at Camden, Alford at Lakewood. Boy, that could be a really good rivalry between, right close together, two schools with pretty similar backgrounds and two pretty similar coaches with a lot of playing experience. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. That's one I'm really looking forward to watching.
Yeah, this may be the hardest pick for me. There's 3 that I'm really looking at, and I think I got to go hand to hand. I mentioned it earlier. I think Coach Turner, this team, I got to do some more research on them before I make a pick. Obviously, this team was very good last year. Got some talent coming back. I think they could certainly be in the 3A lower state, semifinal conversation next year. with him at the helm, a guy who's won a ton in Georgia, a lot of really good experience. I think Coach Turner at Hanahan is going to take them to the next level. It was hard not to pick a guy like Jamie Johnson, who I think is going to make that program really good. It's just going to be a longer turnaround there at Darlington, of course. We all know that. And then a guy we just talked about, Anthony Freight at Wren. Another program that I think is probably a year or two away from really reaching their potential, just because they got a bunch of young guys on the team right now. A lot of good options there in 3A, no doubt about it. The guys you picked are great, of course. But I love Coach Turner going down there to Hanahan. I like that.
You could pick just about any of them.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, there's been very few throughout the whole show tonight that I've been like, oh, the hire wasn't great. I think a lot of these schools did a really good job so far, for sure. Well, guys, this has been a blast, doing our 5A, 4A, 3A coaching carousel show. We'll be back soon enough with 1A, 2A, and some SCSA stuff here. But a lot of good hires, a lot of fun tonight, no doubt about it. Appreciate the viewer questions. I hope we got to all the schools you guys asked about kind of in the lead up to it. If you guys hadn't talked to us before, feel free to check us out. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. at Movin Chains, movinchains.com. That's movinchains.com. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Movin the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. John, Jerel, any final words here as we wrap up this 5A, 4A, and 3A coaching carousel show?
I'm excited about August. This has got me raring to go.
Yeah, I think the best thing about this, like you said earlier, is like the quality of these hires, man. Like there's not been many where I was like, question mark or anything like that. I think these administrations have done a great job in identifying talent and who they want to lead their programs. And I'm excited to see, how they progress over the years.
No doubt about it. Well, for Jerel, Hendricks, and John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Movin the Chains 5A, 4A, 3A coaching carousel show. We will be back soon enough with 1A, 2A, and SCSA.